The suitcase, a faded, floral, patterned relic from a life she barely remembered, sat open on the narrow bed. It yawned, a dark mouth ready to consume the few possessions that defined Elara's existence in the sprawling, marble-clad prison of the Whitlock mansion. Her calloused fingers, usually so sure and steady when braiding a child's hair or smoothing a fevered brow, trembled as she folded a simple cotton dress. Each fold was a crease in her own heart. She was leaving, not just the job, but the two little girls who had become the unexpected, luminous center of her fractured world. The official reason was restructuring, a cold corporate word that felt like a slap. The real reason, unspoken but hanging in the air thicker than Mrs. Whitlock's expensive perfume, was that she was disposable, just part of the household inventory. A 58-year-old black nanny with laugh lines etched a little too deeply, and a heart that had grown too attached. The new, younger Swedish au pair was arriving tomorrow, a blonde, efficient-looking woman from the agency's brochure, who probably knew all about modern pedagogical theories and nothing about how to sew. A nightmare about shadows. A hot tear escaped, tracing a path through the dust on her cheek. She let it fall. It was the first she'd allowed herself in years. Tears were a luxury for those who had the time and space to be comforted afterward. For Elara, they were just more water to be wiped away, another mess to be cleaned up. She was just the help. Invisible, interchangeable, the thought was a familiar ache, a hollow echo of a lifetime of being looked through, not at. She zipped the suitcase closed. The sound was final, like the ceiling of a tomb. The goodbye was a quiet, brutal affair in the manicured garden. Mr. Whitlock had already left for the office. A handshake and a bonus check his only farewell. Mrs. Whitlock, immaculate in silk, offered a tight, perfunctory smile. The girls will miss you, Elara. Do try to say good-bye quickly. Anya will be here soon, and we don't want a scene. 7-year-old Chloe, all boldness and fire, threw her arms around Elara's waist, sobbing openly. Don't go, Elara. I won't let you. Elara held her, breathing in the scent of strawberry shampoo and childish sweat, memorizing the feel of the small, sturdy body against hers. She poured every ounce of her love into that embrace, a silent prayer for this fierce little girl. Then she turned to Lily. 5 years old, with wide, solemn eyes that saw too much, the quiet one, the dreamer, Elara knelt, her knees cracking in protest, a sound that mirrored the breaking inside her. She cupped Lily's face. You be a good girl for your new nanny, my sweet Lily. Bug, Elara whispered, her voice thick. You remember all the stories, yes, you are braver than you know. Lily didn't cry. Instead, she leaned forward, her small hands gripping the worn fabric of Elara's cardigan. She pressed her rosebud mouth to Elara's ear, her whisper a mere breath, a secret meant for no one else in the world. Mama, she breathed, the word, a forbidden, sacred key turning in a lock Elara didn't know existed. Please save us. The world stopped. The chirping birds, the rustling leaves, the distant hum of the city, it all faded into a deafening silence. Mama, not her name, Mama, and then the plea, save us. Elara pulled back, searching the child's face. The fear in Lily's eyes was not the fleeting fear of a monster under the bed. It was deep, chilling, and utterly real. It was a reflection of a truth Elara had perhaps always sensed, but never allowed herself to see. The pristine perfection of the Whitlock home was a painting, and behind it festered something rotten. Mrs. Whitlock's sharp voice cut through the moment. Lily, darling, let go now. Elara has a train to catch. But Elara couldn't move. Save us, the words echoed in her soul, unraveling the resignation she had so carefully packed away. The suitcase by the door suddenly seemed like a monument to her own cowardice. For years, she had accepted her place, her invisibility, believing her only strength was in endurance. But what was endurance in the face of a child's whispered terror? The drive to the station was a blur. She sat in the back of the town car, the bonus check burning a hole in her purse. She saw not the passing streets, but Lily's terrified eyes. She heard not the traffic, but that tiny, desperate voice. "Mama, please save us." The car pulled up to the grand, imposing train station. A river of people flowed around her, all with places to go, lives to live. The driver took her suitcase from the trunk and set it on the curb with a polite, dismissive nod. She was just another passenger now. She stood there, rooted to the spot as the car pulled away. The departure board flickered, listing times and destinations. A life of quiet anonymity was one train ride away. A small, familiar room in her sister's house awaited, a place to finally rest, to finally stop being the strong one. But strength wasn't about leaving. True strength, she realized with a jolt that shook her very foundation, was about staying to fight for those who couldn't. It was about finally seeing your own reflection, not as a servant in a grand house, but as a warrior in a child's eyes. She picked up her suitcase. Its weight felt different now. It was no longer a burden of loss, but an anchor of purpose. She turned her back on the station, on the train, on the easy escape. Her heart hammered against her ribs, not with fear, but with a ferocity she had forgotten she possessed. She was Elara. She was just a black nanny, and she was going back. Walking away from the station was the easiest hard decision she had ever made. The journey back to the Whitlock estate was a pilgrimage into the heart of her own fear. Every step was a silent argument with the voice of a lifetime that told her to keep her head down, to not make trouble, to know her place. "Your place," a new, stronger voice whispered back, "is wherever you are needed, and you are needed." She didn't go to the grand front door. Instead, she went to the small, side gate that led to the kitchen garden, used by the groundskeeper. She knew the code. She knew all the secrets of this house. She was, after all, the help. She slipped inside, her suitcase hidden behind a hydrangea bush, and moved through the familiar corridors with a stealth born of years of trying not to be noticed. She found them in the playroom. The new au pair, Anya, was on her phone, scrolling absently while Chloe listlessly pushed a dollhouse furniture across the floor. Lily was sitting by the window, staring out at the garden, her small shoulders slumped in a posture of profound defeat. The sight was a knife in Elara's heart. Anya looked up, startled. "Can I help you?" The agency said the previous nanny had already left. Elara ignored her. She walked directly to Lily and knelt again. This time, her knees did not protest. This time, she was anchored by purpose. "Lily, bug," she said softly, "I'm here." Lily's head whipped around. The hope that flooded her small face was so bright, it was almost painful to witness. She launched herself into Elara's arms. Chloe, seeing her, let out a cry of joy and joined the embrace, a tangle of small limbs and relieved sobs. Anya was flustered. "I must call Mrs. Whitlock immediately. This is highly irregular. Call her," Elara said, her voice calm, though her heart was a drum. She held the girls tighter. She was their shield now, their mama. The confrontation was as cold and polished as the marble floor of Mrs. Whitlock's study. "This is trespassing, Elara," she said, her voice like ice. "I will call the police. How dare you come back here and upset my children?" "They weren't upset until I left," Elara replied, standing straight, her gaze steady. She was no longer looking at her employer. She was looking at the source of her children's fear. "And they are not upset now that I'm back. They are relieved. Why is that, Mrs. Whitlock?" The woman's composure cracked, just for a second. A flicker of panic. "I have no idea what you are implying. You are a dismissed employee suffering from attachment issues. Now leave, before I have you removed." It was then that Lily, who had been hovering by the door, ran into the room. She didn't say a word. She simply went to her mother's desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small, leather-bound journal. She handed it to Elara. Mrs. Whitlock turned pale. "Lily, give that to me." But it was too late. The journal, filled not with grocery lists but with frantic, desperate entries about overwhelming debt, a husband's affair, and a terrifying plan to stage a kidnapping of the children to extort money from her own wealthy parents, told the whole sordid story. The emotional neglect, the coldness, it hadn't been indifference. It had been the frantic, self-absorbed panic of a woman drowning and willing to push her own children under to save herself. Elara looked from the journal to Mrs. Whitlock's ashen face. There was no anger in her heart, only a vast, sorrowful understanding. "You needed saving too," Elara whispered, "but not like this. Never like this." The police were called, but not by Mrs. Whitlock. Mr. Whitlock was summoned home. The facade of the perfect family shattered in that study, pieces falling to reveal the ugly truth beneath. In the ensuing storm, as social workers and lawyers descended, Elara was the only constant for Chloe and Lily. She held their hands, she packed their bags for their temporary stay with their horrified but loving grandparents. She was their rock. Weeks later, standing on the grandparents' sunny porch, she prepared to say a real goodbye. It was time. "Will you be our nanny still?" Chloe asked, her voice small. Elara smiled, a genuine, peaceful smile that reached her eyes for the first time in decades. "Oh, my darling girl, I will always, always be your Mama Lara. But my job now is to learn how to be my own person." She had used the bonus check, the hush money, to enroll in online courses for early childhood education. She was going to get her credentials. She was going to start her own small, in-home daycare, a place that would be filled with light and stories, and the kind of love that doesn't come with a paycheck. She held them both close. "You saved me, you know," she whispered to Lily. "Your whisper didn't just save you, it saved me too. It reminded me who I am." She was Elara. She was a survivor. She was a protector. She was a woman who had spent a lifetime loving other people's children, and had finally learned, through their love, how to save herself. She walked away from that house not with a suitcase of sorrow, but with a future she had built with her own unbreakable hands. The healing wasn't in forgetting the pain, but in using its lessons to forge a stronger, more compassionate self. She had found her voice in a child's whisper, and now, finally, she would use it to sing her own song. Moral of the story: true strength is not found in silent endurance, but in the courage to answer a call for help, even when that call is a whisper, and even when answering it means you must first learn to finally fight for yourself.